Dune is easily one of the best, if not the best, science fiction worlds of all time, and I dare anyone to, challenge me and put a better example out there. It also ranks amongst my favourite novels, so that means I'm very excited and somewhat apprehensive about the upcoming game, Dune Awakening. Excited due to the potential of a game set in such a universe, apprehensive because, things don't always go right when it comes to modern games. At any rate, Dune Awakening, developed by Funcom, is an upcoming open-world survival MMO that puts players in the rich and dangerous world of Frank Herbert's Dune. It's set on the planet of Arrakis, otherwise known as Dune, and the game promises a blend of survival mechanics, dynamic world exploration, and intense PvP and PvE combat. The game is currently in a closed beta phase, and all current players have signed an NDA, so you won't hear too much outside of official channels on this game. As for the game, it's obviously set in the future, far in the future in fact. The year is 10199 AG. It's an alternate timeline to the books and to the movies, where the main character, Paul Atreides, was never born. This divergence creates a unique narrative setting, which ultimately is distinct from the 2021 Dune movie. The game then is set in approximately the year 23,360 according to our own calendar, so roughly 21,000 years into the future. So Dune features a robust character creation system that will allow players to customize their avatars in great detail, and anyone who's played some of Funcom's more recent games such as Conan Exiles will know full well the extent you can go to when it comes to customization. In addition to appearance, players can choose their character's birthplace, their caste, and their mentor. And mentors can be things such as the Bene Gesserit or the Mentats, and this ultimately impacts dialogue options, skills, and abilities. And notably, players can use the voice, a powerful ability that's derived from the Bene Gesserit training. And yes, in this world, men can indeed be Bene Gesserit, although they can't be Reverend Mothers, but they can benefit from the training of that, in fiction, female-only order. And for anyone who's wondering, this I don't think is a political statement, at least not in the modern sense. The Bene Gesserit in the novels goes all the way back to the 1960s and was an entirely female order that essentially ran much of the galaxy from behind the scenes, from within the shadows. Now, of course, being an online game and having a massive survival focus, the game's core gameplay does focus on crafting and gathering, and these are essential for survival and progression in Dune. Players can craft weapons, tools and gear, and trade blueprints as well. Resource collection includes gathering water, spice and materials. Spice, we'll talk more about that in a moment because it is vital to the world of Dune itself. So players will be able to use tools such as a cut array to aid efficiency in gathering these resources. Another core gameplay is combat, and this involves both PvE and PvP elements, with players fighting environmental threats and competing for territory and resources. The game operates on a single mega server with regional instances similar to traditional MMOs like World of Warcraft, at least in the sense that there's one big central server. The difference here is that Funcom are going to be using a server meshing, and this will be a term familiar to those of you who have followed Star Citizen, where server meshing is a key thing. Funcom have created the same or very similar technology and put it to work inside Dune. Base building is another key element, with players constructing and customizing bases protected by house shields. And yes, some of these bases will indeed be sieges. So the world of Arrakis, of course, is fairly unique in terms of science fiction. Yes, Star Wars has Tatooine, a desert world, but Arrakis has a full biome, a full life and biological function to it. Frank Herbert went into great detail with this, and some of that is going to be apparent and represented within the game. So Arrakis is a dynamic and hazardous environment in Dune, featuring shifting sands, quicksand, and extreme temperatures. The game world is seamless, allowing for players to have uninterrupted exploration around the world. Players can traverse the desert using ornithopters and various other sandcrafts, although usable spaceships are not featured unfortunately, but I guess they won't serve much purpose. One of the main reasons for ornithopters, I guess, would be the speed of travel, because obviously crossing the desert is not only time consuming, it's also very dangerous thanks to the desert worms that exist out there. The game also uses the Unreal Engine 5, just for those of you who may be wondering, so this should mean that there's some pretty beautiful environments out there, and the footage we've seen so far is certainly very nice looking, although we won't know for sure until we really get hands-on, because, you know, I never really fully trust all of these products and PR demos that we see, not until we actually get to experience it for myself. But, you know, it would be nice to at last see Arrakis come to life. In a desert world then, in the book and in the movie, water is very, very important. In fact, it's critical, and it's going to be a massive part of the survival mechanics for the game. So that means water management, of course, is critical for survival in Dune, and players must find and purify water using methods such as extracting moisture from plants and utilising still suits. There is going to be other ways of getting water, which would include extracting water from the blood of your enemies that you've killed. I do believe you'll need to get back to your base and have suitable equipment to extract that water from the blood. But it turns out, I think there's going to be an ability to drink the blood there and then, although that comes with its own risks. Moving on to the subject of spice, the substance known as melange. Now this is crucial to the whole world, and in fact the whole story of Dune. It's only located on one single planet, the planet of Arrakis, and it's essential for the survival of the entire universe. It's what makes space travel possible, and it's also essential for many other things, such as mentats, the human-like computers, as well as the abilities of the aforementioned Bene Gesserit. Without spice, things rapidly start to fall apart. So understandably, spice is important to the lore of the world, but it's also important to the game. So spice is the most crucial resource in the game. It's used for abilities, for crafting, and for economic purposes. It can also be ingested for power-ups, but carries the risk of addiction. Now, in addition to spice, another thing that Dune, of course, is highly recognised for is the massive sandworms. Sandworms are going to be a significant threat on Arrakis, and they're attracted by vibrations. As people move around, they're very likely to be attracted to them. Unfortunately, though, players are not going to have the ability to ride the sandworms at launch. The developers have said it's a feature that may be considered for a future update, but it's not something that's going to come immediately. Spice itself is found in the desert, and well, to get huge volumes of this, players are going to need spice harvesters. They're going to be essential for efficient spice collection. In terms of combat and equipment, the game does have las guns, which are a massive thing inside the world of Dune. These are basically laser guns which can cut through anything, with the exception of shields. Shields are present within Dune. They do have house shields as well as, I do believe, personal shields. Of course, in fiction, if a las gun makes contact with a shield, a nuclear explosion results. Whether or not that's going to be present in the game is anyone's guess. It seems to me, though, that's going to be unlikely. It seems there's probably going to be some lore adjustments to fit gameplay mechanics. So, as such, las guns do have shield detection devices which prevent the catastrophic interactions and ensure balanced and immersive combat experience. Combat mechanics include crafting pistols using abilities like battle calculations, which I do believe is derived from the mentat tuition, and hunter-seeker drones. These abilities specifically do allow players to actually see through walls, although only to moving items, moving people. People who are moving slow or remain still won't be seen. Ultimately, that should add some strategy to PvP. And talking of PvP, I guess we just want to know about factions. The game does have factions. There's going to be 2 of these at launch. Players can align with House Harkonnen or House Atreides. A 3rd faction is planned post-launch. There's no mention of exactly who this is going to be, but my guess would be House Corrino. Unfortunately, players won't be able to join the Bene Gesserit as a faction, but they can learn Bene Gesserit abilities, which does include the voice. Now, in terms of bases, all factions can build bases or settlements in Dune Awakening, which may include sieges. So these player-created bases can be customized and expanded, and this should ultimately include some traditional elements from the lore itself. So underground bases in terms of the sieges to protect against the desert environment. Cooperative base building does allow for players to work together, with one person acting as an architect and another building these structures. So there's a lot to Dune here. It does, of course, incorporate a lot of elements from survival games such as Ark Survival Evolved, as well as Conan Exiles from Funcom. But what's interesting to me is how Funcom are taking an MMO-focused approach to this game. So hopefully it's going to be a bit more than just a traditional survival game and should incorporate some of the broader aspects we see in some MMOs. Whether or not that extends to full-on quest systems such as we see in World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV is a different story, but hopefully all of that is going to be there too, and it's not just going to be about base building and defending your base. So ultimately, Dune does have a lot of potential. I'm very keen to see how this turns out. It's definitely a game I've been keeping my eye on. That said, I'm still a bit cautious, a little bit apprehensive about it, because Dune as a fictional world does mean a lot to me, and I really want to see Funcom do a fair representation of that game. Whether or not that happens, we'll have to see, but based on what we've seen so far at least, it looks as though they're making a decent attempt. Either way, it's definitely a game I'm going to be making more videos on in the future, so do keep an eye out for that. Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. Why not check out the other video linked on the screen right here? I'll catch you all next time, and take care.